now we're going to resume the journey across the lifespan of people living and their families living with autism and intellectual disability. And it's my pleasure this morning to recognize the two moderators who are colleagues of mine at Michigan State University. I don't know how that ended up, but that's how it was. So it's a pleasure. So we're going to, the one we're going to start with is Session 3, School to Third Level and/or Employment, as we say, transition into the workplace is what we say at Michigan State. But it's my pleasure to introduce Connie Sung, and Connie has been an integral part of our own program, C-RAIN, for a number of years. And Connie is an associate professor of rehabilitation counseling at Michigan State University. And her research interests, obviously tied into the session we're having this morning, focus on investigating the roles of biopsychosocial factors, right?
Well, don't put it that way.
I saw this one, biopsychosocial factors and community-based interventions improving school-to-work transition. That's all I'm going to say because it's also right there itself. I'm not going to attempt to say that one again too quickly. But anyway, it's a pleasure to introduce Connie, and I think this morning, as we did yesterday, we're in for some exciting programs. So, good.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, colleagues and friends of DOCTRID, Daughters of Charities, and MSU, I'm very, very honored to be here. And I also have the privilege to co-present with our colleagues from the Daughters of Charity. So I'm going to moderate the session with the theme specifically related to transition from school to tertiary education or employment. So I just want to get a sense of how many of you have worked with transition age? Wow, so almost everybody. So that's very exciting. And I particularly like working with this population because of the demands and the transition of not only the education system to the vocational system, but also all sort of challenges and excitement and unique opportunity that we can work with the individual. So as Ian mentioned, I'm a faculty at MSU, and I also co-direct the DOCTRID MSU Heggerty Fellow Program. Besides that, I also co-direct a school to work transition program called Spartan Project Search, which I'm going to talk about in the presentation today. So please allow me to just give a shout out to my co-director, Dr. Marissa Fisher, who is a special ed faculty at MSU, who is co-directing the program with me. So besides working with the Heggerty Fellows, I just want to echo what Nigel knew about, because we have multiple Nigels in the room, about the assistive fellow. So particularly related to the theme of transition, I had the pleasure and opportunity to work with actually 4 different assistive fellows, including Dr. Yorgos Politis. Yep. So we worked together to develop a virtual reality platform providing soft skills, social skills training for youth and young adults on the autism spectrum. And I also had the pleasure to work with Dr. Keely White. She's unfortunately not able to come here today, but we met right before the conference. And her study focusing on developing and adapting a soft skill, work-related social skills program in Ireland for individuals with autism spectrum disorder. So besides projects that are benefiting the ASD population, I also had the opportunity to work with 2 other assistive fellows. One of them is Nigel Robb, and he's in Japan right now. He's a faculty in the University of Tokyo. So that's very exciting. And we worked on designing inclusive gaming for children and youth with intellectual disability. And last but not least, I had the opportunity to work with Dr. Ivan Traina on developing transition program to benefit individuals with disabilities in Ireland and how they can have a seamless transition from school to work. So I would like to start by saying today I had the great pleasure to present on this topic. So I would like to introduce first Dr. Helen Connaughton, who is a senior educational psychologist at the Daughters of Charity. Dr. Connaughton is involved in a number of initiatives to support the development of individualized services for people with disabilities so that they can enjoy more of good things in life. Second, I would like to introduce Lesley Hynes, who has worked in a variety of roles at Daughters of Charity, and now she's a service manager for the Daughters of Charity Training, Enterprise, and Employment Services. They call it T, right? In Dublin. And Lesley has been involved in service development and configuration, as well as advocacy and employment for people with intellectual disabilities. So my topic of the presentation is supporting a positive transition into adulthood for youth with developmental disabilities through multi-agency collaboration. So I'm really glad about the combination of all three of us because we have very similar passion and interests, and the work that we do are very similar, but the focus of our presentation are going to be a little different. My focus will be more on multi-agency collaboration, and I'm going to use examples to illustrate how that looks like, and Dr. Connaughton is going to talk about the social role valorisation theory and how she used that theory to inform her practices. And then Lesley is going to talk about the T's and how that service is moving from individuals from congregated settings to community settings. So first of all, I will, to start with my presentation, I'm going to share some of the statistics that we have in the United States and talk about the perspective. And I welcome folks in the afternoon session during the workshop also share some of the statistics that you have in Ireland, because I think there must be some commonalities and also differences. And then I will be using two programs that we have been running in the past 4 years to illustrate how important multi-agency collaboration is to the success of the individuals. And then we will talk about some of the lessons learned. We have some growing pain, but we now become, I joked about the first year we were like infant, and then we become a toddler, and then we fall and we learn, and then we now can run in a marathon. And so in United States, we always ask the question is, what do young adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities do after they graduate from high school? So according to statistics, 36% of them will further receive education in post-secondary training and school, and 30% of them actually go into 2-year or 4-year college. And in terms of employment, for those who don't have like a diploma or the opportunity to get to college, they will go into the workforce. The employment rate for youth without intellectual and developmental disabilities is between 35 to 54%. And you probably would ask, why is such a big range? So that is a question to ask researchers, how they conduct the research that really tell us a little different information. However, the employment rate for youth with intellectual and developmental disabilities is 14 to 23. So the gap is really big, and how can we really do some work to narrow the gap and provide equal opportunity for our folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities to work and have a quality of life? So as I work with the population, I notice a lot of time poor soft skills, or we call it work-related social skills, and their job readiness really affect their ability in getting a job or maintaining a job. So because of the lack of employment participation, that lead to the low community participation. And some of them become more isolated and leading to a lot of mental health issues, like they become more anxious, they become more depressed, and that lead to a lower quality of life. So what we are trying to do is, we know all these demands is really adding on the transition youth as they transition out of the school. How can we improve this situation? So evidence-based school-to-work transition programming is very much needed. So I had a background in occupational therapy, and then I did my master in rehab sciences, and then I did my PhD in rehab psychology. So I really see the beauty and the importance of working in with different disciplines in various settings. So I love working with people who think different than I am, so that I can see their perspective and also make the programming that we develop better. So in our program, we work with many different disciplines, including psychology, rehab counseling, special education, educational technology, even HR. We have faculty and students from human resources and labor relations, because we always joked about as people in businesses, they talk different language than we are. So we also need to learn what language they use, and also educating them what language we use so that we have better communication. And we also work with various stakeholders. So Becca mentioned about the different system. We work with families and caregivers very closely, the employers, the schools, teachers, administrators, community rehab providers, VR agencies, and also long-term support agencies. So throughout the development and also the implementation of the program, we always get input from our stakeholders and also emphasize collaboration. So the project that I'm going to use an example is the Spartan Project Search. So Dr. Fisher, would you mind just standing up for 2 seconds? So we started this program in 2016. I really want to thank C. Rain, who has been a great supporter for this program. And the way that we do it is we do it from top down and bottom up. So we got the administrators at the university on board, totally on board, open arms from all the different departments. We also get the administrators from the local school district, from the VR agency on board. At the same time, we work from bottom up is we really go to all these different departments, working with the frontline staff and talk about the program and see how we can all work together. So that the buy-in is not only from the top-down administrators telling their staff, this is what you need to do, this is the right thing, and then frontline staff, I already have enough and you're still adding more on my plate. But they really have a good understanding is the frontline staff also have the opportunity to inform the administrators, what can we do to make the project more successful? So Project Search is an international program that has 600 different cities or sites, we call it, participate. And 500 of those actually within United States. And MSU, we looked at all the 500 sites in the United States, and we recognized a lot of those are being housed in like a building or in a hospital or in a bank, but it's not really capitalizing like a small community, how that will nurture the different skills of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So we decided to take on it and use MSU with 50,000 students and 20,000 different staff and faculty, and with acres of land to create a community for our students to work and learn. So it involves different internship rotation, 3 different ones, so that they can get to come to campus, go to the classroom every day for an hour, and then just go to the site. When I talk about site, I'm going to give you more information later on, but it's a total workplace immersion. They spend from 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock every day, 5 days a week, and only 1 hour in the classroom. The rest of the time, they're out working or learning with people, their colleagues, their coworkers. And in the program, we have instructors and coaches to help them learn through different skills. So this is just an overview. So it's a one-year program. They come in typically in August, and then they will do an orientation between 2 to 3 weeks to learn about how to use the bus, navigate, how to cross the street safely. And then in the, from early September all the way through June, from 8 to 9, they stay in the classroom to learn about different social skills, job skills, and even life skills, how to manage money, etc. And then from 9 to 2, they will be going to the different sites through asking their interests, what they would like to do. So we have sites including how to take care of animals, sites how to provide customer service. And I always said that the most popular customer service site is the dairy store, because every single shift that they work in, they got a free scoop of ice cream. So everybody like, I want to work there. And also we have sites in the office settings. We have sites in like garden, landscaping. We have site in banks. We have site in baker to do bakery. We have site in like facilities to do maintenance job. We have site in the food service. And then at 2 o'clock, they all find a way to come back to the classroom to share about their experience and also debrief before they go home. And then about like April, May, we have vocational rehab agency coming to start planning. When they finish the program by June, we want them all to be having a job. So this past year, we are very excited. We had 8 interns finished from 2018 to 2019. All 8 of them were actually offered a job at MSU. So we are very excited about this outcome because that's only not a positive outcome for our students, but also it tells us a lot how inclusive MSU is and how the culture has been changing is including people with disability on campus. So throughout the whole year, the primary goal is to have them work at least 16 hours per week. Some of the interns have part-time jobs, depending on the ability, depending on the skills, depending on the family situation. Some of them work more than that, up to full-time, and they have to earn minimum wage or above. And it's not seasonal, so they won't like, I'm just working during the summer or not. They work throughout the year, and it's fully inclusive. And additional mission is we see the climate and cultural change in the host business. Oh. So over the 500 current sites in United States, the average outcome is about 75.5%. But MSU, our outcome is 92% in the past 3 years. And there are 33% of them are being hosted by the host site, meaning the place that they did the internship is 33%. And MSU, over the past 3 years, we achieved 80%. So we actually got an award, even recognized by Project Search, how the program we ran is so successful. And the average hourly wage was $9.6 per hour, and they typically work around 25 hours per week. So you kind of have an overview of the program. How we can make this program happen is a true multi-partner collaboration. So, and what is nice about it is we are able to, instead of, oh, the school do their own transition program, or the VR agency do their own transition program, and then because of my passion, I do my own transition program. We just bring everybody together, and we have a braided funding system. So the pot of money is bigger, and the pool of personnel who can support these students are bigger. So here's the our belief is true collaboration among partner agencies is essential. This leads to seamless transition services and sustainability through braided funding streams. True collaboration requires a willingness among partner organizations to share resources and adapt policies and procedures. And I believe is not new to everybody is budgets have been like kept, like cut. So we always have to face, like, we have limited resources and funds. How can we fully utilize what we have to achieve the best outcome? So first, the partner, of course, MSU provides the site, provide classroom, and provide different opportunity for the students to have internship and learn the skills. And the school district also provides instructor to teach different kind of employability skills. And the VR agency in Michigan, we call Michigan Rehabilitation Services. Different state, they call it differently. And they provide different kind of like career guidance, job funding the job coaching, and also providing vocational counseling. And then we have Support Employment Agency. Our partner, PACM, is a nonprofit organization, and they provide the job coaching services and also job development, job placement, and job retention services. And finally is the community mental health, CMH, that they provide long-term support to make sure that they are able to maintain their job and also have a good quality of life. So this is a multifaceted support system. Each year we take 10 students and all these 10 students are surrounded by a lot of supporters in many different ways. And I love the statement that Fiona yesterday made is, we don't really define who is the service user, who are the service providers. Because through this program, we realized, and also we heard from a lot of our people who are involved, they learn a lot from our individuals with disabilities. So who's really serving, who's really providing is really hard to say. So that in the support system, we have an instructor provided by the school. We have site supervisors at work at MSU. We have family members. We have social worker, counselor. We have job coaches. And also we have peers. As I mentioned, we have 50,000 of students on campus. So we have a peer mentoring program to have the similar age peers work alongside or interact alongside with our students with disabilities, because they are all about the same age, about 20s. So they talk their language, that's for sure. So we thought that it's so much better if they can learn from their same age peer than just from, a professional. So besides the project search model that we borrow, we also capitalize our expertise that we have at MSU. We provide additional programming. One of them is navigation training, because in a lot of sites they are housed in a building, so they don't really need to like go out and travel a lot. But at MSU it's different. I don't even remember how many acres MSU has. So basically, if you want to walk from one corner to the other corner of MSU, it takes you 2 hours. So it's not going to work. So we have to teach them how to use the bus to get to their site very efficiently. So we teach them how to use their smartphone to be smart so that they can navigate through the Google map when the bus is coming and where to get on, where to get off, and how to get to the site on time. And we also have the peer mentoring program that I mentioned. As you can see, all these events that we have is out in the community. So for example, this one, there's a... Oh, okay. So the far right, they went to a baseball game together, and the bottom right, they went to an art studio to learn about painting, and the top, we did a art project that they would like to do, and also we went to a museum. An art museum to do. So how we came up with all these different events is actually we consult our students. So they got to nominate the events or activities that they would like to do, and then we have a vote. We have a democratic process for them to tell us what they would like to do. So the goal is to really get them out in the community, and we, as you can see, all these events in the community, we check in with our folks in the communities. By looking at the picture, we couldn't really differentiate who has disability or who don't. That's the purpose of it is we look at the person as a person. We don't let the disability to overshadow their ability. And also we do a disability awareness training. As I mentioned, besides top-down, we also do a bottom-up because that helps a lot that we go to each of the employer's site or the internship site for us to train them what is the best strategies to work with our students with disability? What is the disability etiquette? So I want to close the presentation by sharing some of the continuous work that we have been doing. So throughout the program in the past 2-3 years, we learned, as I mentioned, the first year we had some growing pain, but we grow up as a toddler and went to school, and now we become a marathon runner. And so some of the challenges that we face is there's lack of standardized curriculum to make sure different sites are actually doing similar things to reach to a similar outcome, because we saw variations of different outcome across the 19 different project search sites just within Michigan. And then the other limitation is the job opportunity is we are able to capitalize the MSU large scale of departments, and we have now 22 different sites for 10 students. So a lot of people ask, why do you need 22? You only have 10 students. And our philosophy is we are not just having 10 and plug them in wherever we want them to be in. We want to allow them to have the autonomy to choose what they're interested in and match them with their skills and ability through a very rigorous assessment process. So moving forward, as I mentioned earlier, is budget cut, limited resources, limited funding is always a challenge, but we are able to demonstrate the outcome, and we are actually able to receive funding from the state, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, MDHHS, and they gave us funding to understand better the service gap for the transition population. And we are conducting a statewide survey to see what we have learned throughout the years to inform best practices. And secondly, we have received funding from a federal agency, Institute of Education Sciences, to incorporate 2 different standardized curriculum into the current project search model to see how the standardized curriculum is going to further improve the outcome. So the 2 curriculum, the first one is the soft skills curriculum, looking at like communication skills, networking, teamwork, problem solving. These are the skills that employer call it essential skills instead of just soft skills, but in order to keep a job, these are the essential skills. And the second curriculum is of job readiness, to prep them how to demonstrate professionalism, what are the workplace etiquette, how to keep request for accommodation, how to conduct, how to do interviews at the job interview. And so with these programs, we have like standardized menu, we have the program kit, we have training videos, we have online platform. All these resources make it accessible and available to our partners that they can use. So these are just outcomes that I was going to show. But I want to highlight the lessons that we learned. 3 things. First, communication among all the partners are so important. At first, we were like, we don't want to be like constantly in meeting, but this is so important because that gets everybody on the same page. And also the communication, not only with the partners, we also have meetings with our students, with our teachers. And flexibility, because we are doing a lot of work in the community, and we need to be flexible as a researcher, as we have the rigor that we need to stick with for research, but also we need to understand a lot of the limitation of our practitioners in the clinical settings. So we need to be flexible, and vice versa. Our partners really understand some of the things that we have to stick with in the research design. So we are able to talk through those. And also adaptation is, for example, some of the things that we do at our site, we know that it's not going to be the same at a different site, even if it's within the same state, but in a rural area. So we need to be more open-minded and adapt what we have been doing in order to fit better in the, and contextualize what we are implementing. So those are the key elements to get buy-in. I said parents, practitioners, and the providers, and use research-based and evidence-based practices. So we're very proud of the program because we got different recognition, and the reason we are proud of this is not because we got recognized, we got award, is because that tells a lot how much the community is recognizing and the visibility of integrating individuals with disability in the community. So we got the MSU Excellence in Diversity Award, we got the John C. Dalton Institute on College Students' Values, how much we have impacted our college students to now become advocate of our individuals with disabilities. And the Project Search Employment Award, and also we got funding that just fell on us and asking, we really appreciate your program, can we give you some money to work on some of the new initiatives? And then we were like, of course, we won't say no to money. And we also get funding by our state and federal governments to evaluate the impacts and generate guidelines for other transition programs. So I just want to finally, I don't know why all the font size got so much bigger, but I want to acknowledge our different partners, including MSU C-RAIN, the Ingham Intermediate School District, the Michigan Rehab Services Bureau of Services for Blind Persons, PACM, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and we also have 2 full-time staff working on Blair Demerman, Johnny Winslow, and multiple grad students, Megan, Andy, Lauren, and Ricky. So thank you, and I would pass on to Dr. Connaughton for the next presentation.
Good morning. So I'm going to talk about a personalised transition project based on social role valorisation theory that I conducted as part of my doctorate studies in the Daughters of Charity a number of years ago. I'm going to outline the rationale or the context for the study. I'm going to very briefly describe social role valorisation or SRV theory, which was used to guide the study. Central to all of this work is the discovery process, which is a process of getting to know people in a different way, of spending time with them and discovering who they really are. And then I'm going to describe the experiences of one school leaver as she participated in this personalised school leaver project. So Connie has described the context, I suppose, at an international level. In an Irish context, a large-scale study was conducted in 2009 by the National Institute for Intellectual Disability. And they interviewed school-leaving students with disabilities and their parents with intellectual disabilities. And they found that the vast majority had not been questioned on future career, had no knowledge of transition plans, had little knowledge of post-school options available to them. And the implications for this poor transition practices were clearly seen on post-school outcomes, where young adults with intellectual disability are far less likely to be employed, to have control of finances, to have moved out of home, and to have the skills needed for independent living. In my own work, I was concerned when I am working with students with intellectual disability during these final years in school, that the decisions made on their future were based on the opinions of staff and on their performance on psychological assessments. The students and families themselves were rarely consulted about what they wanted for the future. And even if they were, the options available to them were very limited, usually between 1 or 2 adult day services. And the transition to adult life was not considered. So the transition process was really from school into day service, as opposed to learning the skills needed to achieve adulthood. It was reported as a time of great stress and anxiety for parents, the uncertainty of where their young person would go and what they would be doing. So I set about to see, well, what are good practices in transition? What do we know about the best practices in transition? And I discovered that they have been stable for the last 30 years. And what are described as the best practices in transition include things like work experience and family involvement, person-centred planning, having transition specialists, community-based instruction, individualised instruction, inclusion in general education with peers without disabilities. And the ones that are highlighted in red are the ones that correlate highly with positive post-school outcomes. So I set about designing a research project that incorporated as many of these best practices as I could. I received funding from Genio, who are an organisation funded by the HSC that fund innovative projects supporting people to live self-directed lives in their local communities. And through Genio, I received funding for a job coach or a transition specialist. And the project team received longitudinal training in Endeavour for Excellence, which is based on social role valorisation theory and is really a training in how to provide high quality, individualised supports to people with disabilities. So the project then was a personalised transition project. The project team comprised of a part-time resource teacher, supports from a job coach, input from social work and from myself as the educational psychologist. 8 school leavers participated in the project, 4 attending mainstream and 4 attending special school. The discovery process, which I will describe in a few minutes, was followed by personalised planning meetings, and the focus in all of the work was on life skills, work and recreation, integration into mainstream schools and colleges. And the training from Genio taught us about the importance of sequence, that all of this work has to start with a coherent theory of practice, a theory of practice that is shared among all who are supporting the young people. And the theory of practice for this work is social role valorisation theory. An introduction to social role valorisation theory takes approximately 3 days, so I'm going to give the briefest of overview, and these slides are borrowed from Hope Dietmar, who provided the training through Genio. So Dr. Wolf Wolfensberger is the man who devised social role valorisation theory in the 1980s, and it is defined as enabling, establishing, enhancing, maintaining and/or defending valued social roles. So what is our mission? What are we all about? What is the purpose of our work in supporting people with intellectual disability? It is all about the good life. The results or outcomes we want are the good life. And Wolfensberger identified 17 universal good things in life. And he discovered that they are common across age, across gender, across socioeconomic status, across different cultures. And the 17 universal good things in life include things like family and home, belonging, respect and fairness, work, opportunity to develop abilities, having a say, access to community places, an ordinary social life, contributing. They are the ordinary things in life, the things in life that most of us take for granted. But the reality is that the people we support, the people that we are paid to support, seldom enjoy the good things of life in the way that we can, most of us, take for granted. And SRV asks, why is there this disparity? Why do the people we support not enjoy the good things that most of us take for granted, despite the enormous time, effort and money invested? And SRV argues that devaluation, rather than impairment, is the reason for it. And devaluation occurs when someone is seen as outside the norm, as different, and when that different is viewed in a negative way. So we know what society values: a narrow definition of beauty, physical strength, achievement, wealth, competence, intelligence, youthfulness, individualism. It's not such a stretch to imagine that society most devalues the people who inhabit the very opposite of these characteristics, the people that we support. And SRV emphasises that devaluation is not about people's inherent worth. It is not real, but it is their perceived worth. It is in the eyes and minds of others. It stresses that devaluation is universal. We are hardwired to be aware of and judge difference. In fact, it was required for our self-preservation. We are trained to notice difference and to avoid what isn't familiar. And we have all been consciously and unconsciously socialised to certain ideas, beliefs and values about others. SRV emphasises that devaluation is universal. We all do it. Even kind, enlightened, Highly principled people who work in services devalue others. Even people who experience devaluation and its impact devalue others. Even family members and friends of people who experience devaluation devalue others. It is often unconscious, buried or denied, but we all do it. And it matters because it explains why people don't have equal access to the good things in life that others do. And it results in the likelihood that bad things will happen to you, that you will be treated in ways that wouldn't be tolerated for or by valued citizens. And SRV theory details the common life experiences or the wounds that happen to people as a result of devaluation. Because I can't do it justice today, I'm not going to even touch on it, but if anyone is interested in social role valorisation theory, it's really worth exploring this. So if we accept that devaluation is universal, the antidote to devaluation, according to social role valorisation theory, is valued social roles. So social role valorisation argues that the good things in life are achieved through social valuation, and in order to achieve social valuation, we need to have valued social roles. Social roles are defined as a combination of behaviours, privileges, duties and responsibilities that are socially defined, are widely understood and recognised within a society, and are characteristic or expected of a person occupying a particular position within a society. Social roles are how we introduce ourselves or become known to others. They're what defines who we are, our identity. It's the place we hold in society, where and with whom we belong. It's how we are remembered in the end, and it always starts with I am a. Our roles have a big impact on our image in the eyes of others, our own self-image, on our acceptance and belonging, our degree of autonomy and freedom, opportunity to make our contribution, quantity and quality of relationships, personal growth and development, and material possessions. In fact, our social roles are what give us our good life. So the primary strategies for SRV, if we are to support people with disabilities to enter into valued social roles so that they too can experience the good things in life, we need to support them to develop image and competency. In order to inhabit any social role, image must be appropriate along with the appropriate skills needed to truly fulfil that role. And an image is conveyed through physical appearance, social etiquette, physical surroundings and personal belongings. And SRV talks about the importance of teaching relevant skills using the power of imitation and modelling, which can truly be only achieved by highly competent role models, holding high expectations for people, strategies that reflect how a person learns best, and methods that are typical. So in order to figure out what valued social roles might be fitting for a person, the process of discovery is really integral to the whole process. And discovery involves getting to know people in a different way, finding out who they really are, engaging in systematic and intentional in-depth activities with them, focusing on the positive, finding out what the person can do, what they can do well, learn to do, and do with partial participation. It's really about seeing what is the potential here, what can I really learn about this person if I help them to experience life in a meaningful way. So it's really about looking beyond the literal for the appetite behind people's goals. It's about balancing needs and wants, identifying what is important both to the person and what is important for the person, identifying the most pressing needs, what will have the most impact on improving the quality of the person's life, and visualising with the person their desired lifestyle in terms of home and school, community roles, meaningful relationships, work, new things to learn. The discovery process involves spending time on an individual level with a person, trying out new things, trying out what is already familiar to the person, what are the activities they say they enjoy doing, and also helping them, supporting them to experience new things. And all the time watching to see what is possible for this person, what are they interested in, what are they good at, what needs to be in place for them to do well. It involves spending time with the person in their home, meeting the key people in their lives, looking to see what's in their neighbourhood, what have they already got, what resources are available to them, finding out about their routines and responsibilities and relationships, interviewing people close to them, getting to know them in all sorts of different environments, engaging in different activities. And the purpose of discovery is to help us identify the role requisites. What does this person have to offer others? What are their gifts, their skills? What knowledge do they hold? What assets have they in their personality and their lived experience in the connections that they have? What are they interested in? What does this person prefer, desire, is motivated by? And what conditions need to be in place for them to do their best? All too often we rely on what a person is interested in, and then we go with it and try to create work based on those interests. But for all of us, we also need to have the skills. So interests and skills and conditions for success combine to help us to identify the most fitting opportunities. So all of this in action then, this is Romalej, and when I met her first, she was very much at risk of devaluation. She's an immigrant, the daughter to a single parent, living in rented accommodation, with a significant visual and intellectual disability. Aspects of Romalej's image in terms of her personal and social image hadn't been addressed. She herself had experienced rejection and the wounds that SRV talks about, segregation and low expectations, firmly in the child role and lonely. Through the process of discovery, we got to know a bit more about Romalej, about how she passed her time. And we discovered that when Romalej came home from the special school, she stayed in her house for the rest of the day. Her dad is a nurse and works nights and didn't want Romalej to leave the apartment, the house that they lived in, for fear that she may have an accident. So Romalej stayed at home, engaging in passive leisure activities, playing games on her iPad, watching cartoons on the television. She had very few possessions that would be typical of a 17-year-old on the cusp of adulthood. We looked at the roles that she currently held to see what valued roles were already there, what roles could we protect, what could we develop. So we discovered that while Romalej was in the role of a student, she didn't have a uniform, she didn't have school books, she wasn't studying for exams. Nobody who saw Romalej would know that she was in that valued role of a student. Romalej called herself a friend and a girlfriend, but the reality was that she never saw any of the people that she called as friends or her boyfriend outside of the school setting, or rarely spoke to them on the phone. Romalej was about to turn 18, but was very firmly in the child role in terms of the responsibilities that she held. She was described as a classroom assistant, but nobody outside of her special school setting would respect or value that particular role. Through the process of discovery, though, spending time with Romalej on a one-to-one, we discovered that Romalej had many assets. In spite of the fact that she had never taken a bus, she could recognise bus numbers, she was able to use her bus pass, and very quickly she identified major bus stops. Romalej attended a mainstream school once a week where she was integrated into maths and other classes. We discovered that Romalej was able to multiply, that she knew her tables and could count change and she could read the time. And these were skills that were previously unknown. Even though she wasn't familiar with buying groceries, she had no difficulty selecting and paying for groceries with some practice. We discovered that Romalej loved music, that she knew the names of lyrics and lots of songs, and that she loved to sing. Because she had to mind herself at home, she had developed some basic cooking skills. She was able to fry eggs and chicken and boil potatoes and could make tea. She had a great sense of direction. She had her own iPad and she could use the phone. Romalej, in terms of her personality, was cheerful and friendly, engaging and humorous, a people person who charmed everyone she met. We discovered that Romalej had a very helpful, caring nature, that she could speak fluent Filipino, that she was keen to make plans for the future, and that she herself was resilient and confident of success. We discovered that Romalej had many interests, including seeing her friends. She was interested in young children and babies, in shopping and fashion, in travelling and going for dinner, in using email, in going to new places, in health and fitness, and in cooking. It was through the process of discovery and trying out new things and activities with Romalej in lots and lots of different environments that we discovered what she was interested in, who she really was, and what her assets were. And all the time we were looking beyond what we were seeing in front of us to try to imagine what this might lead to for Romalej in terms of valued roles and the good life. We also recognised that Romalej, there were some conditions that need to be in place for Romalej to succeed. And included in these was support to build confidence in new situations. Romalej has a visual impairment which needed to be considered. She needed practice in new situations, time to process and answer questions. She required specific teaching of some skills and patience to allow her to practice skills. So with Romalej, and through a process of individualised planning, personalised planning, where Romalej invited all the key people in her life, we developed a vision for Romalej, what a good life might look like for her. And this included travelling independently, meeting friends socially, ultimately living with friends, making her own choices and decisions, joining community activities, pursuing hobbies, having a job, having friends over for dinner, looking her best, making and maintaining friendships. Very typical things for any 17-year-old to want for their life. So what Romalej wanted was really typical of every teenager. So during the process, following the personalised meeting, resources were assigned to Romalej dedicated to helping her to achieve her goals. And some of the changes that were achieved over the course of the year were really quite striking, I suppose. The amount of change that happened in a relatively short space of time. So even though Romalej had never had any opportunity to develop an interest in her personal image, once she got the chance, she really took to it. She was really keen to wear makeup. She attended a beautician. Her dad supported her to have a whole new wardrobe. She attended a local gym. She was keen to lose weight for health. She learned how to cycle. She took courses in her community, a computer course along with a healthy eating course. She made many changes to her life and her kind of lifestyle. Previous to that, it was very unhealthy. She engaged in lots of paid work over the course of the years. The focus of this was in identifying what Romalej's interests and assets were, trying to develop her image and her competencies to support her to engage in customised employment. And some of that work included becoming a mother's helper. So Romalej was really keen to work with children and babies, to work in schools. She had a voluntary work reading to preschoolers. But when a job came up for a special needs assistant, it was clear that Romalej wouldn't be able to compete on the open market because of the lack of skill that she had in many areas. So we worked on customised employment for Romalej, and a mother's helper role was brought to our attention by Hope, who provided the training to us. And she told us that in some situations in America, mothers who have newborn babies and toddlers employ teenagers to come into their home to entertain the toddlers so that the mother can attend to the newborn baby. So Romalej engaged in this work. At the time I was pregnant and had a 2-year-old. So Romalej came to me on Fridays and she engaged my toddler in lots and lots of different activities. Because she was working in a preschool at the time, she was able to bring lots of resources. Romalej had all of the prerequisite skills to be really gifted at this work. And other mothers on the road that I live recognised the work that Romalej was doing and was keen to have them support them in their similar situation. And so at one point Romalej was working as mother's helper to 3 families. Romalej also had a job as a retail assistant in a clothes shop and a shoe shop. So she worked in a boutique, and her unique skills in terms of her personality, how engaging and charming she is, and also she learned the skills she needed to order clothes by size, to help people to see what might suit them, to attach security tags to clothes and those kinds of tasks. And the lady who owned the shop said that she felt that sales went up because Romalej had this unique skill in helping people to really, really feel good about themselves and what they were wearing. She also, as a result of this, got a part-time paid work in a shoe shop. Romalej learned to use the computer and to send emails, and through this she was able to keep in contact with her friends. Every Wednesday, Romalej met peers from a local mainstream school, and they supported her to work on her image. So they went to get the Boots loyalty card. She had a makeover. She went to a stylist for advice on fashionable clothes to wear. Her Debs was coming up on her 18th birthday party, and her peers from mainstream school supported her in developing the kind of skills and image that she would require to look and to play the part. With these newfound skills and abilities, Romalej went on dates with her boyfriend. She went to the cinema and for dinner with him, and she also met his family. She became more assertive, and she was able to speak up at her meetings to say who she was and what she really wanted. She was thinking all the time about her future and making career plans, keen to go to college. She travelled independently to work, to school, to the city centre, to the point where her dad was finding it hard to keep tabs on where she was. So some of the pictures, photographs that depict Romalej's experience during the project. So Romalej had initially said that she'd like to work in an office. It was through the process of discovery that Romalej was able to experience many other job sites and figure out what she really wanted to do. So we asked people just for work samples. So Romalej sampled a work placement in an office where she got to see what work goes on here to kind of make an informed decision about the tasks and activities that she herself might like to engage in. So the lady who worked in the office was really impressed by Romalej's social skills. She really looked the part. She had developed many of the skills necessary in the special school setting so that she could inhabit that role successfully. Romalej became a commuter, and here she is taking Dublin bus and really looks like any other commuter. Very skilled in doing that. Romalej went along with her job coach to babysit, to help her job coach to see what are the skills she has, what does she need to learn, what might be possible here. Here she is in my home, reading to my toddler. Romalej became a firm fixture in our lives for that period and beyond. At one point she came swimming with me, so I was able to bring my children swimming with Romalej's support. We went for walks with the children, and many things that I couldn't do on my own, but with Romalej's support I could. Here she is on the day of my child's birthday. This is my little baby Tom, so Romalej came when he was born and continued in her work. On this day, she was in charge of supporting the birthday party, so, telling the children where to go. She's writing thank you cards. 1 minute. Here she is in the gym. This is the night of her 18th birthday party at her graduation. And I guess what we learned, here she is the night of her graduation with her boyfriend, what we learned is that Romalej needed supports that were centred around her, that were individualised and personalised to who she was, rather than slotting into what was available. And some of the points for discussion, the most important one is that a transition specialist or a job coach is crucial. This work needs to start early. Customised employment is important, and we need further research to support sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Connaughton, for sharing the social role valorization theory, understanding like the assets, the conditions, the interests, and through a discovery process to help them get to what they would like to be in terms of their social roles and see the values of themselves. Our next presenter is Lesley Hynes. She's a service manager for the Daughters of Charity Training, Enterprise, and Employment Services in Dublin. She will be presenting on how the new directions policy that is driving changes in day services at the DOC and influencing the approach to service provision being in a person's community as opposed to a large congregated setting. She will also provide details on how one of their services teams on moving away from congregated settings and how they managed to support employment opportunities for service users in a newly developed hub. Today, her presentation title is The Lived Experience of New Directions.
Thanks, everybody. It's great to be here today, and very interesting the last yesterday to hear and put context on the kind of the theory practice and how it relates. And certainly Professor Joshi yesterday, when he spoke about purpose and people and place, that I believe that this presentation will give context to the mission of DOCTRID and why we're all here. So I suppose, again, very many people spoke yesterday about the privilege of supporting people with disabilities towards independence, and I'm very privileged to work with individuals who can very much articulate their wishes, their desires, their aspirations, and are really good ambassadors. So in trying to determine how best to share their story, we decided that a vox pop video was the best way to do it. Nothing like hearing it from themselves. So just to put a little further context on it for people not from Ireland, day services are undergoing significant change at the moment. We have a new government policy called New Directions, and this policy sets out 12 supports, and these supports should be available to everybody attending a day service. And it proposes that day services should take the form of individualised, outcome-focused supports, so to assist people to live a life of their choosing in line with their wishes, views and aspirations. So that's just a little bit of context. So next up, I'll show you the video. Hopefully this will work now.
Hi, my name is Lisa and I go to Stepping Stones in Hynes Community Centre. I like to talk to all the people in Hynes Community Centre. I like to take part in Strictly Connaughton to raise money for the roof.
My name is Jane Murphy. I love going to Stones. I like going exercise, football, basketball, cookery, art. My favourite is going there with Leon trips.
Hi, my name is Fiona Byrne. I'm a service user in Stepping Stones with Leon. We do personal centre plan. So with that, I decided I wanted to take staff and service users out hill walking. So I did a lot of hill walking with the service users in the last year. So my first hike was to Glendalough. So I brought 5 girls, Leon and a few others, out to Glendalough for the day, and we hill walked from Lara over onto the Wicklow Way to Glendalough, and we had such a great day getting there and back. The next one I did was Portmarnock to Malahide. So we got the train to Malahide and we started down along the coast and we went into Portmarnock then, and then got the bus back. And then we went out to Holt. We did from Holt station up to the summit and got a few photographs around by the summit and stuff like that. So that was great fun, and we all enjoyed ourselves. And we'd love to get more involved in more hill walk and stuff like that, and let us be together. I love coming into Stepping Stones. Connor and myself goes to the advocacy meetings. At the meetings we talk about what we are happy with and what we're not happy with. We go through policies and we come back to Stepping Stones to feedback of what we say in the meetings.
Hi, my is Connie. I go to St. Joe's. I can my baby low. I want to have me. I am dying. I treat you some go to my SAS SAS okay.
My name is Rebecca. I love art and Stepping Stones. We won in the exhibition in Huddersfield. We had pictures in the gallery. We saw ghosts, asked other places, pictures called poppies for the colours.
I used to go Topher. I asked to go to Head the Stones. Staff always bring me on the bus, and I also go on the bus with Topher. And now I go on my own in Head the Stones. Ian helped me 39 bus.
Okay. My name is Stephen. I went to Stepping Stones. Ian helped me with the assessment, showed me the ITB bus, and I'm in ITB now, and I've gone my second year in September. From my PCP, I wanted a job. Ian asked us when they get me a job in Tiger, and this is me in Tiger.
Hi, I'm Wilson. I used to be in Topher, then it got a little boring for me and it was very big and noisy. Then I went to Stepping Stones. My mom thinks I should go to ITB, and Stepping Stones helped me get into ITB. I'm in ITB now and I love it, and we do computers, horticulture, creative studies, personal development planning, health and fitness. When I finish in ITB, I'm hoping to get a job in a class, but I would also love to go back to Stepping Stones. Why? Because I loved it there and I loved the people there.
I used to be in Topher. The staff used to drive me on the bus. Now I'm in Stepping Stones. I walk to the shop, buy my lunch, my own money. My favourite thing is boxing size.
My name is Christina. I attend the Stepping Stones. We're big into health and fitness in Stepping Stones. We try to make healthy choices in the community as there's a lot of temptation. We did a course of Healthy Made Easy cooking course, and I really like it. To keep fit, we do meditation, yoga, basketball, swimming and walking. I did the mini marathon with Stepping Stone for 4 years. We did it for Tempest Street Hospital and for poor people in Africa.
Hi, my name is Laura and I am in Stepping Stones. I enjoy working with the kids and teaching them about felting, and now we are doing felting in October with teenagers. We did a year course in cross care. I really enjoyed it. It was lots of fun with different choices and making new friends.
Hi, I'm Aaron. I've gone Stepping Stones. I helped with the artist in Hunstown, felt it. I helped the little kids in Hunstown summer project. I liked to help with Leon get the stuff in Mr. Price. I showed the artist fed it. They never have fed it before. I live in Hunstown and Stepping Stones live in Hunstown. I know loads of people in the community centre.
There we go. Yeah, so just for context, ITB is a third level college. It's now TU Dublin, and we run a programme there where we have 6 learners who are integrated in the college, and the idea is we focus on employment skills. It's called employability. But you will see there that I suppose it is a community-based hub. We started our journey in 2014. We were moving from a congregated workshop type environment, and we were looking to become truly integrated in the community rather than just visible. Because we certainly had a presence in the community, but the integration piece was the tricky piece. So we really, when we started out, I suppose, we felt that it was all about the location, and there were key, I suppose, issues that we needed to consider. So that was like, where do our potential service users live? Because again, that's where you develop natural supports. Where or what are the primary objectives to the service that we're going to provide, and will it match the location? Transport options, building access considerations, so ground floor access was key, and then local amenities, what was available to us. So we did secure a suitable premises in Huntstown Community Centre. Now, it wasn't the perfect environment, and we did struggle with different things around room availability, storage, a lot of practical issues, but we did overcome them. So this slide was actually challenges, and we changed it to considerations, because I suppose, you know, these are ongoing considerations that are relevant to some people. So at the moment we have 23 people that attend the hub. So it's a complementary service, because what happened was I really thought initially that I was going to be on a hard sell, because I'd heard them talk about the camaraderie of the day service, not wanting to leave it. I'd heard staff talk about who they were going to network with. You know, they were moving from a team to a lone working scenario. So we did spend time trying to develop a robust criteria to determine, and a transparent criteria, who would we offer the hub to. So in the end, we decided that we would offer it out as a complementary and a service to their existing service, and that's how it continues to function today. So just to run through some of these considerations, we needed to communicate the vision. As I said earlier, who do we offer it to? We looked at the challenge of effecting change with a larger group or developing a hub specifically for 6 persons. And as I said, we went with the latter. And we looked at people primarily living in the Huntstown, Hartstown community areas. So you look at, it goes back to very much the minded, secure day service, coming out to the unknown, offering that bit of reassurance, having appropriate partnerships with families and parents, developing the community links, and key, and I think it's a parallel to all of the presentations here today, a key person in all of this is the jobs coach. So currently in Ireland, under new directions, there is no new funding to appoint any new jobs coaches, but we are forging ahead with developing appropriate links with our community services in relation to jobs. Yeah, as I said, I thought it would be on a hard sell, but there was a good response, and we went with effecting change with the larger number of people. So we decided that we'd focus on skilled teaching, and the money, transport and phone were the top 3 that were chosen. So with respect to money, people were learning for the first time that they were in receipt of a disability allowance. They didn't understand that. So there was some budgetary training around that, linking with the families. You know, families had concern over the financial impact that moving to a community hub might have. But however, there was some very real learning. You know, Alicia spoke there about going to the shop and getting her lunch, and then realising on a Wednesday, well, she'd run out of money. So there was no lunch for Thursday and Friday. So there was very powerful, very, very powerful learning. Transport was another, travel training. You know, it's key in terms of building independence and having a job. And certainly there was a lot of effort put into independent travel. Again, lots of reassurance needed with that. And with the phone, this was a must. It was determined as an essential prerequisite to being out in the community. Again, very relevant to what we're talking about here today, technology, the use of it, how it's very, very important in terms of connectivity, building independence. You know, it was a very reassuring piece that if a service user wanted to have their location on, that families could actually determine where they were if they got lost, or they themselves were reassured by it. So it was a real enabler. But there was lots of training, lots of kind of late night calls and voice calls initially, but we got around it. The other key consideration when we moved was about establishing the group, looking at their shared interests, matching their abilities, meeting individual need within that group context, bearing in mind that it was a single staffed hub. So I'd love nothing more than to stand up here and tell you that they stormed and normed and formed, but they didn't storm and norm and form. And we had lots of challenges initially. So we had to look at dynamics. We had to look at, you know, people's mobility. You know, did we have to do a softer day, if you like, with an activity maybe based in Huntstown Community Centre for people that had mobility issues, and etc., etc. But there was lots of learning in that in terms of diplomacy and decision making and all of that piece. But they're key considerations, and I was often called to many an incident where someone had decided it was their right to remain at an activity when the rest of the group were moving on. But we certainly got over it. I think another consideration, you know, is staff and the staff that goes out to the hub, because the hub will only be as successful as the staff, particularly in a loan situation, and their readiness in terms of going out into the community, in terms of their ability to have an appetite for positive risk, around their ability to network, to develop their own support, to have flexibility. It's not your traditional 9 to 4 day service. There are lots of extras and outside of that. And I suppose they all needed support with the changing staff role. So very early on there was lots of support from the manager. We would have spent a lot of time out there in the hub with the staff. But now we have increased our hub network to 6. So they would very much network among themselves, and there's a very strong camaraderie out there. But I put risk on its own because I suppose we're in the business of risk, particularly in human services when we're trying to build independence. And it's very important that we risk assess to enable something to happen. So as opposed to it restricting or highlighting why it shouldn't happen. So I suppose we had lots of conversations. You know, we had many a moment where somebody was due to arrive in or was due to be somewhere, and we had the missing persons policy out, and then they might arrive in with hot chocolate around their mouth where they had stopped off on the way in to have a hot chocolate. And we sat back and said, look, this is where we need to be. This is how it is, you know. And I suppose we have as an organisation a loan working policy. There was a very good guidance document around that. But you know, flexibility is key in terms of the staff. So you saw Lisa up there, and she spoke about the Strictly Come Dancing. So the community centre needed a new roof, and they were going to do a fundraising, Strictly Come Dancing fundraiser. And Lisa wanted to take part, which she did, but she had booked a weekend away. So she had asked the staff in the hub to go to the dance practice for her so that she would be able, which happened in the evening from 8 to 9, so she could come back and do the dance the following week. So I should really put, you have to be a good dancer in there in terms of staffing profile as well. But I suppose, again, choice, and, you know, it was in and out of this slide a couple of times, because there is a wonderful opportunity for choice, and you get to really experience choice. So you're making an informed decision around, because oftentimes we say, what would you like to do? You know, what would you like to do? You know, how do you know what you'd like to do? So there's a great opportunity to experience choice and have different options available to you. And with that comes the consideration of somebody making an unwise choice, and something you believe or you're challenged by in terms of your own views or the family views or sibling views. So I think it's important that, you know, it comes with a caution, that We need to be able to work through supporting people to understand the consequences of making that choice. Perhaps thinking, can they come back from actually the consequences of an unwise decision? But there's been lots of education and opportunity to educate around that. How am I doing on time? I don't see anything up yet. I'm way over, am I? Okay, I'm between you and your coffee, so I'm very quickly.
This is too important. You take your time.
Okay, organisationally then, I suppose this is a nightmare. So I can't put it in any other way. It's more than a challenge, because I suppose it's constantly evolving. So how do you stand over accountability in terms of people's places when they're all off doing different things at different points in time? And so there was a big challenge in terms of moving in that direction and having appropriate accountability and record keeping. So we did develop our own record keeping system. We are very much based in the community. Paper is hazardous when you're across locations because you lose it, you leave it behind, it doesn't work. So we have developed an IT system where we have a shared drive and we have all online folders which allow staff very quick access across a number of community locations to be able to account for what's happening. So as I said, the hub is constantly evolving. It's in the main, it's empty. Somebody's in TU Dublin, another person's doing a literacy class in Blanchardstown, another person is in with the homeless in town. And that's really when you can sit back and say, like, so much has been achieved, we're giving back to our community, we are active citizens, because oftentimes people we support are in receipt of a lot of giving, but we certainly in Stepping Stones have given back. So thank you very much, folks, that's the end of it.
Thank you, Lesley, and I really enjoy the combination of the presentation because I really see each of the presentation we share the different program, but largely we share a lot of the universal characteristics of good program to help individuals with disabilities to be successful. But each of the program also have their uniqueness. And in the afternoon when we have the workshop, as each of the presenter, we talked about the challenges, the growing pain, and if we tell you everything just sailing smoothly, nothing happened, I'm gonna lie. But this afternoon we are going to talk about what are some of the challenges and barriers that each of you, when you work with your consumers, your team members, your clients, all the different terminology different agencies use, and how did you overcome those and be creative? I really like those 6 words, like we provide a service, we respect each individual, we do excellence work, we collaborate, like all the partnership. We have the justice, making sure people have the equal opportunity to access and be creative, like given the resources, the fundings, how we can really utilize them fully. So feel free to join us in the afternoon workshop, and we are hoping to come up with some best practices and also some concrete next steps that we would like to take to move forward. Thank you.
Great.